Welcome to our pointing and repointing video. First thing that we need to do is to make sure we've got a nice flexible mortar mix, nice and strong with a little bit of additive, get it nice and flexible. Using a pointing trowel, small enough to be comfortable with if you're not used to it, pick some mortar up from the edge of your either bricklayer's trowel or a hawk if you're using it. Pick it up gently, don't rush it, and then push it into the joint. Make sure all of those joints are completely full. When they are full, top them up just a little bit more so they're a little bit proud of the brickwork, and that's going to make pointing a lot easier. The other way of getting the joints full is by using a length of hose pipe, and the finish of the hose pipe gives us a bucket handle joint, so called because it's the same shape as the old galvanized bucket handles. That's the common joint that you'll see in brickwork today.
So that's bucket handle. The next type of pointing is just ordinary flush pointing. So making sure the bricks are all full up. We just simply use our trowel, sometimes our bricklaying trowel, sometimes our pointing trowel, just to run along the face of the brick and cut the joints off flush with the face of the brick. And again, that will be a lot neater when that's brushed in, so we'll show you that happening in a bit. So that's flush pointing. The next type is a pointing called weather struck, where we take our trowel, push it to the underside of the brick, and pointing it out at a slight angle, we run the trowel along the brick, pushing in quite hard so that we're undercutting the brick slightly and angling the mortar out. We then cut that mortar off at the bottom, and we have a weather struck joint, if the camera can get a close up of that. And there's a weather struck joint. We can actually do a twice struck joint by pushing the trowel back down on the top of the brick below and bringing our trowel, forming a triangle along that joint. Very time consuming way of jointing. As you can see, and need plenty of mortar in the joint to achieve a nice finish. So we'll do this little bit quickly. And there we have a joint that's been struck twice. So if we zoom in on this section of brickwork here, we can see a twice weather struck joint. They're the three major types of pointing that we're going to encompass. There is one more, and it involves another tool called a joint rake, a mortar rake. It's a little wheeled device with a handle and a nail on the end. The nail can be adjusted in or out by turning this screw here. So we'll move that in about 1/4 of an inch below the bottom of the wheels. Tighten up on the screw, and then if you watch closely, I'll do this very slowly so the camera can see. The nail goes into the joint, the wheels sit on the brick, and by rolling that backwards and forwards, you can see we're raking out the joint and giving ourselves a recessed joint. Now, this can only really be done effectively when the joints are full up immediately after the work has been laid. So we cut off any surplus mortar from the brick, and then we'll wait a few minutes for that lot to go hard, and we'll brush it all in so that you can see the effects of the brush. So we left that half an hour or so to dry off enough to brush, and I've played about with the one panel to get all three different. So we've got a recessed joint there. A little bit further down we've got a twice struck joint in this area here, then a once struck joint along here, twice struck, twice struck, twice struck, and then some bucket handle along there. So the first thing we do when we're ready to brush up, we'll just go along, just take, because as it's dry, it's no good trying to clean wet mortar off a brick. All you're going to do is smudge it into the brick. Let it dry. That's why I didn't touch it initially. Let it dry. Go along afterwards. Cut any stray moisture off. Use your pointing trowel. Cut it off. You're going to get some on the brick. That's just the way it is. But when it's dry enough, and you'll know by experience, we just run along the joints with a normal brush. Normally I'd use a bigger brush than this, but this is to hand. Get into the joint and close the surface of that joint up. And you can see already as I'm doing that how much neater that looks as we brush that up. Brush into the recesses, then we go along the twice struck joint, brush that up. That also takes a little bit more off the brick if we've got some on there. Onto the bucket handle, brush that into the joint, over the top of the twice struck, just smoothing it off just a bit and closing the joints up. So there we have a little bit of mortar here and there. You'll be able to scrape that off. And it's dry. There we go. So there we go. So with a little bit of brushwork and a little bit of care, we can get a really neat wall. So there's how we point and repoint a brick wall in a variety of styles. You can always run over it again with your trowel when you've brushed, just to refine the shape of the joint. So pointing and repointing a wall from DIY Doctor.